Today, this has been a very long awaited episode. I've already done him an introduction. I think for the first time, I have got one of my oldest friends who is also now a client who I've also been on the stage with. I am absolutely delighted to introduce our guest, Martin Keddie. Welcome, Martin.
Thank you very much for having me. And again, I do apologize. It has been such a long time coming, given that, we've been trying to set this up for so many months now. I'm excited to be here.
Excited to have you. So, I think for everyone listening, a lot of people won't know you and how you came into recruitment. So, can you tell our audience a bit about how you got into education recruitment? Because it wasn't your first career, right?
It definitely wasn't. And like most people, very much fell into education recruitment. Quite unique journey for me in that sense that I was actually a candidate for Axcis Education, working as a teaching assistant when, well, actually you got me into the teaching assistant work. We were on stage together. And then, it's like I enjoyed what I was doing. And then a job came up in the office as a consultant. I thought, I know Axcis, I like what they stand for. Why not give it a try? And then I did, got through the interview, got the job, and here I am 10 years later.
Nice. And being honest, and a lot of people get into recruitment for different reasons. And if you were completely honest, was there an element of what really spurred you to get into it? Because a lot of people say they want to go into recruitment for the wrong reasons. Some people want to do it because of money. Sometimes people want to do it because they want to help people. What were your real intentions of getting into recruitment?
To be honest, all I knew of recruitment is from what you'd told me. I didn't really have any friends in the sector, didn't even really know agencies existed until, I'd sort of bumped into you. So for me personally, it was just, I just enjoyed what the candidates were doing on a day-to-day basis and skills. And I thought, actually, I'd quite like to help those, help people do that and actually support the children we work with in the skills. So for me, it wasn't actually sort of the money motivated sort of side of things. It was more about that sort of helping people and making a difference really to the children we work with on a day-to-day basis.
Definitely. And I guess you've always had that element of discipline, haven't you? Because you're trained dancer, choreographer. He's getting embarrassed now. So you've had that element of needing that discipline in your life in other realms, right? But I remember when I met you the very first time, you were working ridiculous long hours in a sort of a customer facing type role. I remember you saying that you've been up all night working on shifts and things like that. So can you remind me, what were you doing? So you've done the dancing, the choreographer. What were you doing before that?
I've had quite a varied career path, really. Yes, I originally trained in musical theatre, did a bit of that, and then I was doing a sort of part-time job, which took me working in the airline industry, and I got an opportunity to then move abroad with that job. So I kind of like left the performance behind, and I've been lucky enough to spend a number of years abroad. I lived in Amsterdam, worked in France, I lived in Atlanta, San Francisco, which then brought me back to London, where I was still doing the sort of customer service management stuff. And then I got back into performing again for a number of years before I started doing education recruitment. So I think all those experiences, though, have really helped sort of shape my sort of views and thoughts on recruitment. And maybe I am sort of different to what a normal sort of consultant would have been like from back in the day. But I think it's really important that sort of experience has shaped my path and my way in recruitment, really.
Yeah, I love that. And you progress very quickly in education recruitment. And I think a lot of people who don't realize Axcis are solely special educational needs recruitment, but that can be in primary schools and secondary schools as well, right? It can be the SEN side.
Absolutely. It's across all age groups, from nurseries through to colleges. We work special needs doesn't just stop when you leave secondary school. It starts before you go to nursery and it doesn't end for the rest of your life. And the people we work with and support comes from all ages and all spectrums of the special needs sort of field.
Yeah, it's really nice. I think like there's always, and you more than anybody, because you have worked with some pretty challenging behaviors within special educational needs. I guess you kind of see both sides of it. So you've been a candidate, but you've also had to, the importance of getting the right person for the role. And I think so much recruitment between you and me, I think recruitment, well, between you and me and the podcast guest listeners, I think a lot of people go into recruitment and they can get solely focused on the money. But one of the things I really like about you and the way you've kind of grown and the whole of Axcis is it is very much about the kids and the special educational needs, because you hear hear some stories. You hear how you're impacting some of the most vulnerable children in the country, right? So
Oh
it's
my goodness,
like,
absolutely. And I think coming from that sort of TA background, working for Axis, I was in an array of different settings. But then I've also seen the other side of things where, the little things you do on a day-to-day basis really make an impact to that child's life and just getting them through that day and getting them through that week. And I think that really helped me when I moved into recruitment because I could tell straight away when I was interviewing a candidate, are they going to work out for this school or that school? Do they have the right skill set, the right attitude? And I think it's really what we do at Axis is very consultative with our clients and with our candidates. Just because you've worked in a special needs school, it doesn't mean you're the right fit for the next school because they're all so different. They're very different. So yeah, I think having that first-hand experience really helped me sort of get my head into the sort of the consultant sort of role and master that 360, dealing with clients, candidates, matching them up, etc.
it really is like an art of recruitment, I think, when you are properly matching. There's nothing transactional about working with special educational needs. And I think recruitment in education, amongst other sectors, can sometimes get a stigma for being transactional. But just like you said, every role is different. And I love that. So tell us, what is your role now? What are you doing at Axis?
Well, now I'm the Associate Director for HR and Candidate Management, which encompasses lots and lots of different things.
A bit of a factotum of all trades. I love it. So, in regards to your progression, because if you look on your LinkedIn, like your progression is what a lot of people would love to have in their career. What kind of advice could you give to people who maybe are listening to this and they think, well, I'm sat on a desk in recruitment, but I would like to progress in the way that Martin has progressed? What did you do to progress through the ranks, so to speak?
To be honest, it was more as if when I started, I came from being a TA to a consultant, didn't really know the job, but then I quickly picked it up. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed helping the candidates. I enjoyed working with the clients. From there, it was really the relationships that built me up. And I was the highest biller in the company within a couple of years, which, considering I'd never done recruitment before, I had no idea what it was about. I thought, that was quite a big achievement, I think, to be honest. And then from there, I was like, you know what, I want to go and start helping other people to be the best they can possibly be. So I've been through the ranks from senior consultant to team leader, senior team leader to branch manager. And then I suppose throughout the whole period, I've always been about the relationships. I've always enjoyed the people side of things. And that's why, when I was branch manager, obviously I was dealing with a lot more with sort of internal people and helping them, coaching them, whether it be performance issues, personal issues, what have you. So from there, I thought, I've always enjoyed that people side. So let's go get a CIPD qualification in HR and let's try and move into HR. And I did. And that was for me my personal goal because actually the sort of side of the job I really enjoyed was that people side, helping people, whether it be our internal candidates, our external candidates, our clients. So yeah, that for me, it was a personal growth. I wanted to develop myself in that sort of area. Hence, I've ended up as an associate director in HR now.
I love that. And one thing that I get from what you just said, and I think there are a lot of people out there, sadly, who look at companies and they say, well, what can they do for me? What training can they do for me? But actually, what you did is you went and thought, well, what role do I want? And you went to go and get the training yourself. You took the initiative to do that and you almost created the role that you wanted within the organization.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, there wasn't even this role. This role didn't exist when I wanted the role. But off my own back, I went and studied my CIPD qualification in my own time, evenings, weekends, and then came to the company and says, look, I'm now HR qualified. I want to move into this field, and we just made it work. Yeah.
yeah, I love that. That's one thing. For anyone who's listening to this and doesn't know, I actually worked for Axis for 13 years. And it's certainly what I see is you've got two types of companies. You've got the companies where they're backed by huge investors and everyone has to have their role. You can't change what that role is because it doesn't fit in with the strategy. One of the great things about working for a private company like Axis is that you are able to create roles for yourself or create different types of roles based on individual strengths. Because
Absolutely.
we all know the owner, right? It's not someone
Yeah.
in a keyboard you never see.
No, exactly. And I think a lot of people come to us saying, I want career progression. It's like, well, what does that mean for you? Some people, career progression is being the biggest biller in the company. Some people, career progression is managing teams. And we can sort of tailor make, someone's career to suit them and their strengths and what they want to do with their job. I mean, some of the biggest billers in the company we have don't want to manage people, but they want to give their knowledge and help develop and train and support people to be the best they possibly can be. And that's what career progression means for them. It doesn't necessarily mean I need to be manage a team of 10, and we can tailor everybody's career package to what's right for them and where their skill set sort of lies.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people get into management without knowing what it actually is. And it can be a really stressful job. It really can.
Absolutely.
The one thing actually I'll say about you that I've seen and witnessed and think that everyone can learn from is that you do have the ability to remain extremely calm in the most stressful situations, whether it's a candidate who's not there on time and a client's maybe upset, something like that. You always manage to keep that. How do you do that? I really want to know. How do you maintain that calm smile? I've never seen you ever rattled. How do you do it?
Well, I've never been one to stress. But, when you come from a sort of performance background, you work in live theatre, things happen on stage, things change. You have to be adaptable. You have to be thinking on your feet and be able to react immediately. And that happens in recruitment every day. Things get thrown into, things just happen randomly, unexpectedly. And you just have to be able to deal with these situations. Getting frustrated or angry or stressed is not going to help anyone get through the hurdles we have to face on a daily basis. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Although easier said than done, right? It's
It is, yes. I mean, don't
but
get me wrong, there are absolutely times where I do want to, I am stressed, but I just can't show it. Yeah, I suppose that's the acting training coming out at that point.
yeah, and you know, it's so easy, isn't it? When you work with people in an office, it's like they're your family, and I know they're not, but it feels like it. And sometimes you almost want to just get that release and just say, "Oh, my day's going really badly," and doesn't always help the other people around you.
Yeah, everybody has good days and bad days. You have ups and downs. And I think that's what's so great about Axis and probably what's kept me around for so long. It's a very supportive team culture because you've got your colleagues to pick you up when you're having a bad day, and you'll do the same for them when they're having a bad day. And it's so important because you spend so much time at work, so much time. You need that sort of supportive culture behind you to keep you going. And that probably is why I've stuck around Axis for so long, to be honest.
Well, you answered my question because I was going to say, and everyone who is in education recruitment gets messages probably from people like me on a daily basis, offering them new opportunities and offering this. And being at a company for so long, they must have done something right to hang on to you. So, other than that supportive environment, what else has kept you at Axis?
I say, yeah, first and foremost, it's definitely the people I work with. But also, it's allowed me to grow from a career point of view. It's allowed me to go down different paths within the business, which has also helped me grow personally as well. So, yeah, I think really the sort of opportunities that they've given me, along with the sort of that people and the culture, and I suppose also what we do. We are very unique. As I said, you do have good days, bad days, but sometimes working in the field of special needs, you have to just sit back and think, you know what? If I hadn't placed that teaching assistant or that teacher in that class today to help this child, they wouldn't have gotten through the day. And actually, that is what we're doing at the end of the day. That is actually sometimes what just is a reality check, what brings you back to earth.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so true. It's not just something you're saying, because having worked for you guys myself, what I love is there's a sense of eccentricity that is welcomed, right? Amongst the staff there. I think it's not like one size fits all. Everyone goes out, gets drunk on Friday. Yes, there's that community environment, but you're also very welcoming of different types of people. And I've never worked anywhere where there's been so many different types of people in one company. The diversity is excellent, but also on point, the different characters who are just embraced for their quirky oddities. Maybe thinking about myself as one, but yeah, it's definitely a great environment to be part of.
And I think that
Oh,
that's part of our recruitment strategy as well. We don't go for the standard mold or the one size fits all. We look at people as individuals, what they can sort of bring to the role. And we have people here from all walks of life, literally all walks of life. So it's great. And that does bring that sort of diverse sort of office and different ways of thinking from different people, different lived experiences. So yeah, that is actually what makes part of the Axis sort of culture, really.
yeah, and I think also the hybrid options. I know there's going to be people listening to this who might be just about to interview with yourselves, or they might be considering interviewing with Axis. And often they do get to interview with you as one of the first stages. So, what do you look for when you're interviewing? That $1 million question, education recruitment, we all know has a high staff turnover in every company, more than any sort of role. It's a tough job. What do you look for when you're hiring?
Personally, I look for the individual. I look for their work ethic and their sort of passion and drive because we can teach people what SEND stands for, what ASD, SEMH means. We can teach people our systems, our processes, and our policies. But what we can't teach people is to have that work ethic and that drive and that passion to actually make a difference. Whether their motivation be money, whether it be helping people, that's great. But they need to have that innate sort of passion to do that first, because I want to go to the gym and get a six pack. That's great. My motivation is I want to walk down the beach and have this six pack. But actually, if I don't do anything about it, or I've got no drive or passion about it, it's never going to happen. It's the same in recruitment. Just because, oh yeah, I want to be the biggest biller, etc. If you don't want to put that effort in, have that sort of innate something within you, it's never going to work. And so, yeah, for me personally, it's that work ethic, that drive, that passion, that individual sort of motivation.
I know those are all things that helped you become a top biller in running your desk and your progression. But I think there's the other side of it, right? The market sometimes is tough. And I hate it when people say that, because it's almost an excuse before it's kind of an excuse. But we all know that sometimes you can be flying on your desk, you can be bringing in loads of deals, placements, and then you might have a really bad patch where maybe a lot of them go on a permanent placement, or it can just be really tough. How do you, because you're an expert manager, you've been trained, how do you manage someone maybe who is underperforming and struggling to stay motivated? Big question.
Listen, but we've all, myself and you, we've all run big desks and we all have bad terms for whatever reason through no fault of your own. And I think when someone is underperforming, it's about just going back to basics. I'm a very big believer in just doing the basics in recruitment. It's not a difficult job. You just have to do the basics and be consistent about it, and you will get the outcomes in the end. We have a great product. The candidates we have are very much needed in the market. So if someone is underperforming, it's about just taking them back and just sort of reevaluating and sort of refocusing. What are we doing? What are we not doing? What more support do you need? Can we help in some other way? And we are, as a company, we're very good at sort of supporting people when they are underperforming, as well as performing, of course. But sometimes we all lose our way. I've done it myself as a consultant running a big desk. You just get so blinkered about what's there then right in front of you. You don't think about the longer term or the future, and you're not strategic about it. So yeah, it's very much taking people back to basics, resetting, refocusing, and sort of giving that support to help them sort of get back to performing again. Because we want people to succeed. If they succeed, they're happy, we're happy, everyone's happy.
Yes, and I think one of the great things is that you have some of the biggest billers, I think, in education recruitment at Axcis, and they will be in the same office or at least a phone call away, and you can get them to give you advice. Like, there's so much at your disposal. Oh my gosh, it makes me want to come back and work for you, but don't worry, I can't. I now live here, over here. But genuinely, what has been your biggest learning moment? There must have been times where you haven't always got it right, and you've maybe had to adjust and change, or maybe you failed at something that was a big learning point for you. Have you had a moment like that in your career?
I think we all have many moments like that. I remember maybe sort of going into year two, I sort of lost focus on what the core function of recruitment was, which was actually recruiting people. I got so focused on dealing with my clients, I'd forgotten I actually have to bring in candidates and interview them to actually help my clients. That was a big learning curve, sort of going into year two for me. But then throughout all my roles, whether taking on a management role initially, it's like, well, how do I then motivate this team of salespeople to achieve their targets? To going into my HR role, it's like it's a completely different sort of skill set again. And I've had to make some really tough decisions, which are not nice decisions to make. That's also been a huge learning curve for me as well. So every other year, there's something else that sort of throws a curveball, which makes me sort of think, oh, okay, I can learn from that. What went well? What didn't go well? What can I do for the next time?
Yeah, love that. What about new managers? Because I'll tell you, and you probably remember, when I was a new manager and I used to get everyone into a room, and I was very autocratic, very militant, and almost probably scary in what my expectations were of people. And then I would wonder and feel quite sad when people didn't like me. And do you think a manager should just accept that you're not always going to be liked? Because it's a tough one, isn't it? A lot of people go into management thinking they want to be the most loved manager and everyone will think I'm great. But there must be times, especially in your role, where you think, okay, not sure if you like me right now. How do you deal with that? Because a lot of managers struggle with that.
Absolutely. And I always say to managers, it doesn't really matter if you're liked or not, but I think you need to gain the respect of your team. And you do that by leading from example, being fair, being consistent, showing best practice. As long as you gain that respect from your team, then actually they probably will come to like you. And even if you're making the wrong decision, not the wrong decisions, but a decision which maybe they don't like, as long as you can sort of justify that and explain why, then, if your team respects you and value you, then they're not going to hate you and they will understand the reasons why and respect that decision. But it is tough. It's tough for any new manager coming into a role, whether you're being promoted, you're going from working alongside your colleagues to then being their manager, or if you're a new manager coming into the business, you don't know the business, the people, the dynamics. It's really tough. And luckily, a lot of our management positions are promoted from within. But regardless of where the new managers come from, we do a lot of sort of support and work with them. We have an external training company to come in and help support them as well, because it is tough. Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
And it's not just something you're saying, because I remember there's support and there's blame. And there are some companies, smaller companies, and I see it all the time, where if someone kicks off that their manager didn't do this or complains about their manager for whatever reason, and it might be something there's much more of a supportive environment at Axcis to support everyone. And that is true. I've seen it. Yeah, I guess I can't believe now. So how many years have you been at Axcis? Because I know there's been people 15 years anniversaries, 20-year anniversaries. How long
Yeah,
have you
I
been
mean, I
there?
think I'm just over 10 years in the office, but then obviously I was worked as a TA for them for a year or two before that. So my involvement with Axis is, yeah, well over a decade.
And with
But
that,
yeah,
yeah, and with
yeah.
that, this is a question I don't think you're expecting me to ask, but I'm going to say it anyway. You must have had a heap of people give you a lot of excuses for not showing up in schools, right? So you're recruiting teachers, you've heard it all. What is the most bizarre reason that someone has not turned up for work?
You know what? There are so many. We could write a book about it. We really could. One of them was my cat's not come back this morning, so I have to wait for my cat to come home. Another one was, oh, I can't go to work today because I've got a friend coming around for dinner tonight, so I need to spend the day cooking. Yeah, I mean, literally, there's so many. And I suppose you start to become a bit skeptical sometimes because you hear the same excuse over and over again. But it's people. We work with people, and people unfortunately do let people down sometimes. So you just have to develop a tough skin and have that backup plan ready to go.
No, it's so true. I'm sure I've heard some weird ones over the year as well. And do you know what? The worst part was when one actually happened to me, and you can write it. It was like, my boyfriend's locked me in the flat and I can't physically get out. And you just hear yourself and you're just like, oh my gosh, you can't write this. But yeah, it's
Or another one was, oh, I'm going to be late today because I've had to pick up an injured bird up from the side of the road and take them to the RSP. It's like, okay.
that's nice. No? Do we not want to pick up the injured
I
bird?
mean, we do, but I mean, if you've wandered the streets of London, you've seen how many pigeons are out there.
Oh man. Well, yeah, that is definitely the most bizarre one that I've come across. But yeah, no, I love it. I love it. Well, look, I'm so happy that we finally got to do this episode. One thing that I always think about when I think about you, he's like, what's she gonna say? How you've always managed to show up with confidence. I've never seen you stumble or look shy or like, what does confidence mean to you? I ask a few people this, and you're one of those people I genuinely really want to know the answer. Where do you find your confidence?
I don't know. Do I come across confident? No, I suppose when you're in a sort of, management position, I do have, I don't know, I suppose every answer I give is considered and there's reasons behind it. And I can sort of always explain my reasoning for something. And I think as long as I'm comfortable and confident with my decision-making process, then I'm comfortable and confident delivering whatever it may be on a daily basis, whether it be good news, bad news, problem solving, dealing with dramas, whatever it may be. I suppose making that dynamic risk assessment, Susanna. You remember we learned that back in Team Teach days?
I love that. Dynamic risk assessment. Not everyone has the ability to do that, but thinking about what you're saying before you say it. Oh my gosh, I could definitely do with some of that, Martin. Oh, but yeah, look, thank you so much for coming on the episode. I really
No,
appreciate
thank
it.
you so much for having me. It's sorry it's been so long coming, but it's been a pleasure speaking to you as
I love it.
always.
Well, look, people might be listening to this and they might want to work for Axcis. If you are listening, you absolutely should. Well, naturally, you can reach out to me, but how can they reach out to you if they want to ask you advice or if they're inspired by what they've heard today? How can the listeners contact you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can drop me an email. It's just martin@axis.co.uk, or head on to our website, to our careers page if you're interested in our open roles at the moment, or give me a call. Google
Amazing.
Axis.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.